Hey YouTube, Cliff here. Today I want to talk about magnification and the importance of it for visual inspection and with sharpening, for checking for damage, and for all the things that you need it for. Your magnification can be as simple as a magnifying glass, a little handheld pocket microscope. These are about $3 to $5 on Amazon. You can get a more powerful little handheld microscope like this. Another option, as we're going to see, is the little USB microscope that I use quite a bit. And then I have a final option that I'll have to drag out from the inside the house there. So what I hope to show today is the difference between the quality, power of magnification versus the practicality, how easy it is to use. The cheapest things are the easiest to use. They offer the least amount of magnification. Somewhere in the middle there's a nice balance. Spoiler alert, it's the USB microscope, but I just wanted to show everybody this. I'm going to use this as a little adapter clamp that somebody suggested to me a while back, and what it allows me to do is I can clamp the scopes and things into this, and then I'll be able to attach the phone that I'm recording from here, and we'll be able to show you what I'm going to do. So let me get this set up, and I'll start with try to start with the most basic thing, which is the magnifying glass. I'll just go through these really quick. It won't be too long. Okay, I got the phone set up. It's about 4 or 5 inches away from the knife. The knife is just one I picked up off the bench. It came in for a handle repair. I haven't sharpened it or done anything. I'm going to focus, I think, on this first tooth as we increase. I do have it mounted in the wicked edge. Something regarding the wicked edge will be coming up in some future videos. For right now, I just pulled it out to use it as a stable mounting clamp. First thing I realized was that the magnifying glass won't really videotape very well the magnification it gives you because the camera adjusts for it. The camera itself has a built-in zoom capabilities that should allow it to focus, and you can use the camera itself as a very effective inspector for basic edge. That's just the phone with a zoom magnification. I'm going to go ahead now and put one of the pocket microscopes on there. This is horrible for video purposes, so I'll just get off this. This is the cheapest little microscope. I used it very often when I first started out. It doesn't have its light anymore, and you're not seeing what I see when I look through the eye because of the limited aperture size, I guess, something like that. But to give you an idea of the magnification level that we're at, this is again that first tooth, and I'm going to switch to something, get out of this ugly thing. Okay, this is a quick shot with the second handheld microscope. It's really hard. The jig isn't working for showing you guys, but this is that same first tooth. You can see the detail. It works really quite well. The only problem is the image is inverted. It's upside down and backwards. So it's very hard to use and manipulate in a real world application. It's too bad because the quality on this little guy is much better. That last image was taken with this little guy. You can find all these on Amazon. This is a Carson. I believe it's a 1 to 100. It's well built. Everything works good about it. When you move up, when you move down, the image moves up, and left to right or backwards also. So it completely inverts everything, and it's almost impossible to use for quick visual inspections and things like that. Again, for a long time I did use one of these little toy ones, and it worked just fine, but you have to also get your face right there next to the edge for inspection, and not very practical at all. Okay, enough of the jiggly hand cam. Okay, this is the little no-name USB microscope. There's a dozen of them. They're all very similar. It was about $20. It doesn't come with any software besides a basic viewing program. You can't measure angles. You can't add a distance scale or any of that stuff. I've tried to use all the different software in it. What it does, and I've been using this for 2 years now, is it's still working. It was $20. I'm going to apply the USB scope to the blade, and I'm going to view it right up here, and hopefully you guys will be able to see that. So if I come on over put the knife blade, the USB scope on the blade. It's just as easy as that. And there's that first tooth again. That's our same tooth. The other nice thing about this USB microscope is you can go up and over the top of the blade. You can look at the apex formation. You can see the scratch patterns. I'm going down the blade. It's a little out of focus. I can carefully adjust it back into focus. I'm sitting in an upright position at the bench, and I'm just holding this in my hand. I'm running it up and down the blade. It does scratch the cowl. Yeah, the cowl does get scratched, but over the course of 2 years it's still intact and it's still working fine. But it's a great tool, $20, easily lets you see and inspect the edge for damage, also to make sure that the blade has been apexed, etc., etc. I'm going to go ahead and pause here right now and set up the final option, and I'll be right back with that. Okay, here it is, the grand finale. This is my lab-grade metallurgical microscope. Sounds awesome. I got to the point in my sharpening where I couldn't see what I was doing down at the micron level. I wanted to really try and get the most hair-popping apex I could. Basically, you're sharpening blind at that point unless you have magnification or access to an electron microscope, that sort of thing. It's about as far down the rabbit hole as you can go. I got a great deal on this microscope. They're normally incredibly expensive. I picked it up off of eBay for a couple $100. It was in perfect working condition. It is still an absolute nightmare to use. Just between now and the last scene, I took 30 minutes to set it up, get the light source calibrated, get the apertures for the opening centered, correct light level. It uses the principle of the light comes down the same tube as the magnification, so it reflects the light off the blade. There's a small, instead of the light coming through from underneath with a normal microscope, the metallurgical microscope sends the light down and shines the light right on this point of the blade. Because one of the other inherent limits of this type of system is the depth of field, which means if this is what I'm looking at in 3 dimensions, I can focus up at the top, but the bottom will be blurry, and even on a very small scale you have to adjust things around. It allows you to see at a higher magnification than any other means possible. It's almost impossible to use, and it's incredibly fiddly to get set up. This is a homemade door hinge with a magnetic strip to hold the knife. You then have to adjust the blade varying angles to get the light to reflect correctly. I've done a decent enough job just to show you what it can do today, and I'll go ahead and I'll put the camera over there right now. Okay, this is good enough to show you. I'm on the corner of that edge. You can move it. The nice thing is you have fine control up and down, left and right, and then the focus. But if I want to focus on an object on the edge, you lose your depth of field just in that little bit of angle right there. I think we'll focus on this little scrap piece or whatever that is on the corner, and I'll go ahead and switch the zoom to a higher level, and you can see the apex like nothing else. Again, just for a scale reference, this is that first dip, and there's that first tooth. You can see why I'm not focusing on the tooth at this point, because as I try and focus on one part, like out at the tip, everything else becomes blurry. Okay, just for reference sake, the magnification is 100 total. Again, here you can see the lack of a depth of field, but if I scroll down, zoom in down towards the bottom, okay, here we are at 200 power. Basically just looking at the strop section, you can see how it's all blended together. The depth of field has decreased yet again, so I can either focus up towards the top, or I can move the focus down and bring it right to the edge. Okay, last one here. This is at 400 power, and this is where you get to see truly, you know, where this can do something that nothing else can. And for those curious, this is what the 400 power looks like. Again, there's the depth of field issue where I can either focus at the top or the bottom. If you take the time and you align everything and you set it all up and then you adjust the lighting correctly, it's much easier without the camera. The camera's wiggling and things like that, but with your eye you can do it. Then you can adjust side to side. And then you have to refocus. But you get the idea. You can inspect at a very fine level that you can't normal otherwise, and guess what? In everyday use, you don't need to. This was just something I needed for being able to see exactly what was happening with 0.1 micron, you know, sprays on felt, and especially with the Wicked Edge, with stropping, with microfiber, with kangaroo leather, and the fine action of what you were doing to try and hone an edge to as sharp as possible. All right, I'm going to get out of this jiggle wiggle microscope mode and talk a little bit more. Okay guys, so basically that's it. I started with the little Fisher-Price Mickey Mouse $3 microscope, pocket microscope. It worked fine when I was first starting out and I was on a strict budget. It doesn't do high magnification, but it does allow you to inspect the edge. If you have nothing else, $3, hard to beat. I think this was $10. High quality build, completely unusable because of the way up goes down and left goes right. $20 for the no-name USB microscope. Works great. Use it on a daily basis when I'm inspecting edges and things like that. Still my favorite tool by far, and an absolute home run winner for being able to do what you need to do. And then finally, for a couple $100, the lab grade metallurgical microscope. Completely impractical, difficult to use, unparalleled level of magnification. And that's it in a heartbeat. I haven't pulled this thing out. It's double covered, and it's been in the back of my closet for at least a year now. So I was happy to pull it out, and I immediately got reminded of how frustrating it was to use. I'll go into it more later on about the reasons why you need magnification, and if I mention magnification, here's some options that you have for inspection and for troubleshooting when you're trying to sharpen a blade. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day.